Number 10. Bison versus British tourist. 19-year-old British national Amelia Dean and her friend were just 2 days into a summer road trip across the US in 2022 when they stopped at Custer State Park in South Dakota to take the friend's dog for a walk. The park is home to an estimated 1,400 bison, with males often standing at 6 feet, 1.8 meters tall, and weighing as much as 2,000 pounds, 907 kilograms. The travelers were about halfway through their hike and had about 2 hours left to go when they spotted a large bison ahead of them. By then, they had run out of water and other supplies. They were thirsty, and backtracking further into the wilderness wasn't an option. The pair decided to cautiously walk around the bull at what they hoped was a safe distance. But as they approached from about 100 yards, 91.4 meters away, the bison spotted them and charged toward them. It stopped and stared at the women for a few moments before headbutting Amelia with its horns, sending her flying 10 to 20 feet, 3 to 6 meters in the air. The bull's horn went straight through the young woman's thigh. Amelia's friend managed to lead the animal away and called for an ambulance. At the hospital, she learned that the bison had damaged 2 of her leg nerves, leaving her paralyzed from the knee down. While the news was disappointing, Amelia knew that she was lucky to be alive, especially considering the extent of her injury. She had lost a lot of blood, and some people only survive for minutes with the type of wound she had. Experts recommend staying at least 75 feet, 23 meters away from bison at all times, putting Amelia and her friend at what's normally considered a safe distance when the attack occurred. The teen described the ordeal as a freak accident and said that she hopes it doesn't discourage others from traveling and seeing the world. Number 9. Sick sea lion targets teen. 13-year-old Megan Pagnini and her best friend were walking along the shore in Pismo Beach, California one evening in 2019 when they spotted a sea lion in the water. It wasn't an unusual sight for the teens, who were used to seeing the ocean animals off the state's central coast, and they weren't the least bit afraid of the creatures. But that all changed when the animal approached the girls and bit Pagnini's leg. She was rushed to the hospital with a serious wound and had to get stitches. Encounters like this are an anomaly, according to California Department of Fish and Wildlife Patrol Captain Todd Tagnazzini, who said that sea lion attacks on humans are incredibly rare, even among those who spend a lot of time in the water. The sea lion that bit Pagnini was behaving noticeably strange, leading experts to believe that it was suffering from domoic acid poisoning, which causes disorientation and brain damage in marine animals. Tagnazzini told the Daily Mail that the sea lion was picked up and treated for the condition. Although Megan's experience was unlikely to happen again, she was left feeling traumatized and said that she was unsure whether she would ever return to the beach where the incident happened. Number 8. Bludgeoned by a bear. After landing her dream job as a grizzly bear wildlife technician for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in 2018, 28-year-old Amber Cornack began working in the remote Cabinet Mountains in Montana. Just 2 weeks later, she was working alone when a bear attacked her from behind and mauled her, leaving her seriously injured. Cornack was collecting hair samples near a stream in hopes of analyzing grizzly DNA when the creature swiped her head. She grabbed a can of bear spray and used it to ward off her attacker. At the time, Cornack was 2 miles, 3.2 kilometers from her work vehicle. She knew she was hurt and that her survival depended on getting medical treatment as soon as possible. Remaining as calm as possible, she walked to the vehicle and drove to find help. Amber was airlifted to a hospital where she had to have emergency surgery to remove bone fragments from 2 skull fractures and to clean wounds to her head. Doctors put metal plates and screws on her skull, along with temporary drains to relieve brain swelling. She faced a long road to recovery, but was eager to get back to her research and had no plans to let the experience stop her from returning to the forest. Number 7. Wildlife expert fights for survival. Wildlife expert Greg Graziani was working as the director of operations at an animal park in Venus, Florida in 2022 when he was attacked by an alligator for the second time in 10 years. Authorities have released few details on the incident, but said that it happened during a routine interaction with the park's alligators. The attack left Graziani's right arm hanging by a single tendon and some twisted muscle. He was airlifted to the hospital, where doctors did their best to untangle and save his mangled limb. They tried to reattach his hand, but the damage was too extensive and they amputated below the elbow. A post on the park's Facebook page explained that surgeons performed a procedure to optimize Graziani's arm for the future use of a prosthetic, and in a way that should eliminate a common sensation among amputees, known as phantom pain. Graziani nearly lost his arm in the previous alligator attack that he survived, which happened in 2013 when he was hired to remove a 7.5-foot, 2.3 meters female from someone's yard. He put the gator into a horse trailer where it rolled and pulled on a rope that he was holding, causing it to tighten and snap his bones in several places. While losing an arm certainly sounds terrible, Graziani is lucky to be alive after experiencing not one, but 2 close calls with death. He plans to continue working with alligators after he heals. Number 6. Elephant Rampage. Spectators witnessed a horrific scene during a Circus International performance in Honolulu in 1994 when an African elephant went on a rampage and killed her trainer before escaping from the arena. The 21-year-old elephant, named Tyke, was reportedly spooked when a staff member got too close behind her. She threw the employee several times and was about to stomp on his head when veteran trainer Alan Campbell intervened. He saved the worker's life, but lost his own when the elephant crushed him to death instead. Tyke then ran outside and wandered loose for the next half hour until police killed her. Campbell's death came as a surprise to many. The 37-year-old was a highly experienced zookeeper and trainer who was well known for his work with elephants, but the ordeal was less shocking to those who had worked with Tyke in the past and knew that the elephant had a troubling history of aggressive behavior. According to her former trainer, Brian McMillan, who spoke with the Los Angeles Times following the tragedy, she was uncooperative and clearly didn't want to be trained. Tyke also had a history of running away, injuring trainers, and going on crazy rampages. McMillan was surprised that Campbell stepped in front of Tyke during the attack on his co-worker, describing it as the last thing a trainer would want to do in that type of situation. Campbell's abilities were also called into question when an autopsy found alcohol and cocaine in his system. But the bottom line is that Tyke wasn't meant to perform and didn't belong in a circus. It was dangerous to the public and to everyone who worked with her. Unfortunately, as they say, hindsight is 20/20, and nobody with the ability to prevent the tragedy saw it coming. Number 5. Maniacal Mule. 22-year-old Syed Bukhar was backpacking in the Pakistan Himalayas in 2022 when a mule charged at him and pushed him off the edge of a 100-foot, 30.5 meters cliff. The London native landed face down as a handful of locals rushed to the scene and were relieved to find him alive. They fashioned a stretcher out of wood and rope and carried Bukhar for 6 hours back to base camp. Once there, he was taken to a local hospital where he received 8 stitches for multiple head wounds. Considering the extent of his fall, the young man is incredibly lucky to be alive, and while the ordeal left him suffering with back pain and scars all over his body, his injuries could have been much worse. Mules are usually friendly towards humans, making Bukhar's experience extremely unusual. He credited the villagers who rescued him with saving his life. Number 4. Deadly Dogs. Mail carriers are used to encountering aggressive dogs every now and then, but nothing could prepare 61-year-old Pamela Rock for the pack of 5 canines she encountered in rural Interlaken, Florida in 2022. Her mail truck broke down in a subdivision shortly before the dogs viciously mauled her. Witnesses overheard Rock screaming for help and rushed to her aid. One local resident fired his rifle towards the ground repeatedly in an attempt to scare the dogs off, but they continued their frenzied attack. Rock was still conscious when emergency responders arrived, but she was catastrophically injured and had an erratic pulse. She was flown to a hospital where doctors tried desperately to save her life. They amputated her arm in hopes of improving her condition and considered amputating her other limbs, which were heavily damaged, but sadly, Rock died from her injuries. The dogs that attacked her had escaped from their enclosure and had been running loose for weeks, according to neighbors. They were all euthanized following the brutal tragedy. Their owner had been reported to animal control at least 4 times in 3 years for alleged incidents involving the dogs getting loose and acting aggressive. For many, Rock's grisly death poses some disturbing unanswered questions, including why the owner was allowed to continue having dogs when there were obvious ongoing issues with their ability to keep the animals contained and with the dogs acting vicious. According to the most recent update, the investigation is ongoing and the owner is cooperating but could face charges depending on the evidence. Number 3. Brutal butt bite. A 64-year-old Russian tourist was swimming off the coast of Antalya, Turkey in 2022 when a loggerhead sea turtle suddenly bit her rear end. Lydia Bazarova told East to West News that she was no more than 10 or 12 feet, 3 to 3.6 meters from the shore, when the creature tried dragging her underwater. At the time, she had no idea what type of animal had attacked her, as she flailed helplessly in the water. The turtle let go of Bazarova at one point, only to bite her again moments later. A nearby lifeguard saw that she was in distress and rushed into the water, where he began yelling at the reptile. It became distracted enough to let go of Bazarova, who ran to shore. The lifeguard continued to try warding off the turtle, who bit him in the arm and then swam away. Bazarova was left covered in bruises and thankful to be alive. Once an avid sea lover, she said that she may not ever go back into the water after enduring the horrific ordeal. The attack came on the heels of at least another rather aggressive encounters with sea turtles at the beach over a 2-week span. While most people don't think of sea turtles as vicious animals, loggerheads are known to be territorial and will attack those who invade their space. And while they're not nearly as dangerous as some of the ocean's other creatures, they're capable of doing quite a bit of damage. Number 2. Killer catfish. A lot of animals that are capable of killing humans prefer to avoid them rather than attack, and tend to only show aggression when they feel provoked or threatened. But there are some creatures who will kill a person without any provocation. One good example is the gunch catfish, also known as the giant devil, which dwells in the deep, fast waters of India's rivers and may also have a presence in Southeast Asia. Measuring up to 6.6 feet, 2 meters long, and often weighing over 200 pounds, 91 kilograms, it's one of the largest catfish species. The gunch catfish frequently made headlines between 1998 and 2007, when a series of fatal attacks occurred along the Kali River. In one of the earliest attacks, the creature dragged a 17-year-old man underwater as his traumatized girlfriend looked on helplessly. 3 months later, a young boy was pulled under in front of his father, and in 2007, an 18-year-old man vanished into the water by what witnesses described as an elongated pig. At least 2 of the victims' bodies were never found, despite thorough searches of the area. While it was never proven that a gunch catfish was responsible for the attacks, the species has been found living in that part of the river, and it's the most probable candidate. Number 1. Not-so-friendly sea lion. A young Australian woman was left with a serious wound and a hefty medical bill after a freak sea lion attack off the Western Australia coast in 2020. 25-year-old Elena Priscilla, who works as a pastry chef by day, went swimming with a friend in a popular tourist area known for its friendly sea lion population. She was having what she later described as an amazing experience swimming underwater with the creatures when a sea lion attacked her lower leg. Elena immediately began to panic and was unable to swim to shore. She wasn't in pain due to the adrenaline surge she was experiencing, but she was in shock and terrified as she remained surrounded by sea lions. Luckily, her friend was nearby and got her to dry land. She received over 20 stitches and was put on a round of antibiotics to prevent an infection. The ordeal left Elena with a 4-figure hospital bill and a set decision to never swim with sea lions again. She also said that she'll never recommend it to others. Thanks for watching. Would you rather have your home completely destroyed by a bear but walk away uninjured, or be bitten in the arm by an alligator? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye.